We're gonna turn these dollar store stacking pumpkins into some creepy, rotten pumpkins to join the gang. Now, I first started with the teeth, and I got this air dry clay from the Dollar Tree. I just rolled the clay into little like cone shapes, I made some big ones, some small ones, just to make a bunch of crazy jagged teeth, and I let them dry overnight, well, probably for about 24 hours. And then the next day went ahead and spray painted all of them white. Filming where I actually cut out the faces, but I used a hot knife for that. And what you do is cut out the faces first, and then you give all the pumpkins a black coat on the outside before you go back and paint them orange and add your different highlights and things like that. So here's a hot knife. That's what I used. It makes it way easier to cut out plastic. You get like smoother lines and everything. After your face is cut out and you've got your black base on the pumpkin, then you spray the surface of the pumpkin with water before adding the modeling clay. This helps it stick to that smooth surface a lot better, and the modeling clay helps this pumpkin have more dimension. It's gonna pop a lot more and stand out. And like some of the pumpkins I gave overbites, other ones I did underbites, and then I stick the teeth in, and it just gives it more of a creepy look. I shaped the clay around the eye and also dragged some of it out a little bit to extend and kind of look like eyebrows. And then used the little spatula tools to create lines and divots and make it look a little more realistic before we add the paint on top. Here you can see that I'm shaping that underbite and giving it a nice thick base so I can stick all those teeth on and make sure that they're not falling off. They're gonna all harden together. So the teeth that I spray painted white earlier, now I'm gonna start sticking those into the clay while the clay on the face is still soft and not hardened yet. These were like the 10th or 11th pumpkins that I had worked on in such a short amount of time. I spent 4 weeks trying to make as many pumpkins as I could from paper mache and things like that. So towards the end of this whole project, I started buying plastic pumpkins, just trying to like get as much as I could, because this was all meant to create a scene for a trunk or treat and for our yard. So by this point, I was getting kind of lazy with the faces, or kind of running out of ideas. Like, I didn't do a whole lot with the eyes on the 2 smaller pumpkins for this stacking one. The bottom pumpkin, I had an idea in my head for that and was really excited about that, so I kind of went all out on that one. And then with this one, just kept the eyes a little more simple. Just needed some simple jack-o'-lanterns, This is the one that I was so excited about. And you can see that we're following a theme here. Like, all this stuff came from Dollar Tree. The stacking pumpkins, those big eyeballs, and the modeling clay, that was all from Dollar Tree. You can also get the acrylic paint, which is what I used. I just used acrylic paint for all of this. And, some basic paint brushes. These clay tools were also from Dollar Tree. And with this, what I did was I hot glued, like I just cut a circle out of the plastic for the eyeball. I hot glued the eyeball on the inside, and there were gaps in there, which is what I wanted to give it more depth. So I add all that clay in to fill the gap and make it thick and have like a nice thick gummy area to stick all the teeth inside of. It dries partly to the plastic and to the eyeball, so then you get a nice strong base. But of course we stick the teeth in to the clay before we let it air dry and fully dry. Here I'm using the tool to give the clay more ridges and make it look more like gums. Something to consider that I didn't think about until it came time to start painting is that you're gonna have to paint around all of these teeth, right? So a good idea would be to place the teeth to make those divots where they're gonna sit, and then pull them out, let the clay dry, then paint, and then super glue them in later. The painting wasn't super terrible, especially not on this one because it was a much bigger area. And after I had gone in to paint the gums a dark color and all that, then I just went in with white after to repaint the teeth. But, you know, just so you know, it would be a little easier if you take the teeth out, then do the gums, and then super glue them in later into those little divots that you had already made. I gave all these an initial coat of a basic orange, and then after that mixed some acrylics of orange, red, and a little bit of yellow. I think I did more red than anything to give it more of a darker shade. Like you can tell on the bigger pumpkin, it is more of a reddish orange. I wanted these to be darker, and purple complements orange very well. It's a really good way to get those dark highlights and make it moody and creepy. So you'll see here in a minute that with the shading on the lines and around the eyes and the mouth, I did a lot of purple and red and orange. I was also mixing some browns in there too, and I used this plastic bag to mix my colors and get the right shades that I wanted, and also dry brush. So I'm making sure my brush is dry and I'm like brushing off a lot of that paint. That way there's not excess, it's just dry brushing different shades all over this pumpkin. That way it's coming out a lot softer and not having super heavy dark lines because you want it to be blended. Since these gums were originally yellow, I went in and painted them black, let that dry, and then went over it with purple to give it a darker shade. And there it is. It came out perfect. Super easy Dollar Tree flip, especially if you're wanting to make pumpkins and not do it from scratch like with paper mache. This gives you a good base to start from.